Okay. So, we're going to do a follow-up from your flower
Yes.
remedy.
Yes, we are.
And let's see, I'm just trying to think when you started taking this. We did this consultation on the 4th of August. I bet you didn't start it till probably mid-August.
Yeah, actually, so we had gone to Jackson
Right?
and then I got it when I got back. So we got back around like oh, I could look on my calendar. Let me look really quick and I can tell
Okay.
you. Because I remember it was in the inbox and then I started taking it
Yeah.
right when I saw that it was there. When did we get back? Yeah, we got back on, yeah, I got it on Sunday the 16th and
Okay.
I started taking it on Monday the 17th because I kind of remember I was like being a little anal. I was like, I'll just start it in the morning,
Yeah.
and what helped me to be as regular and taking is at the same time simultaneously I started a candida cleanse, so
Yeah.
I had to do that twice a day, so I just kept the flower essence bottle right next to that, and
Mhm.
then I was really quite good about the taking it, I'd say 4 times a day, especially during that time because then I would come in on a break or go to the bathroom and then I would see it. I mean, I was more religious about it than not religious, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, it does. That's right. And that happens, especially in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did you end up finishing the bottle?
Oh, I still have some. Yeah.
Okay. How much would you say you have left?
Maybe a fourth, if an eighth of the bottle, I think,
Okay,
something
that's
like
great.
that.
That's
Yeah.
great. What can happen is in the beginning, you can take it more regularly and then you'll start kind of forgetting, or you might just take it twice a day. And I always feel like that's time in a way your spirit, your body's saying, okay, you know, maybe need something new, or that did what it was supposed to do.
That makes
Um,
complete sense. That
does it make sense?
It does, because I was like absolutely like on page with it, and all of a sudden it just seemed like it started to drift a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Candida thing didn't drift. I just finished that this past Sunday.
Interesting.
So it just started to drift a little bit where I was like, oh, okay, twice. And,
Yeah.
oh, right, I should take that again. Yeah, twice. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It's happened many, many times. So just generally, and with the caveat that there's a lot going on the planet
There's
continually.
a lot going on in my body.
Yes, and a lot going on in your body. How has the last month and a half been for you? Just if, when you look back, just anything that you might, what's,
Well, here I want to tie the Candida thing in because I do think it's related.
yes,
So I had in the Candida cleanse I have, they have what's called die off.
yes,
So my symptoms had gotten better. Well, then because I had been on this diet, well, then I started taking the official cleanse products. And I went through, it was like 2 weeks, Christine, where I was like, oh God, I can see why people abandon this,
mhm,
because it's like, but I know it well enough to know that, okay, this doesn't, it sucks all because all my symptoms and even other symptoms of other things seem like they were just coming to the surface. And a
yes,
big thing for me is I had this rash that I literally feel like I wanted to peel my skin off. And
yeah,
I think I might have been doing a call that we all had together. And I had this sort of realization on the call that I think I really felt, and it just came to me. And that's when I trusted. I wasn't thinking about it. It came into my thinking. I was thinking that the flower essences I were taking were supporting me on that journey. Even though
mm,
it was an intense and all, it just popped in my head like, oh, I feel in the midst of all of that, I could absolutely stay solid, which I know is my personality anyway, if I know, but it just felt I had this hint like this is definitely supporting me through this process.
yeah, yeah. That's wonderful. And I really know what you're talking about. You, even though they're subtle, you feel their presence
Yes.
as a kind of just this. this support that's with you.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to in our fast pace, make it happen, big results, really fast culture, that
Yes.
stuff can get missed.
Yeah.
And even so, to take those flower essences, to be doing this cleanse and be like, okay, this, there's these subtle changes. And I also think it really kind of assisted me in this process because all of a sudden I had these moments where I was like, I think I'm about to turn a corner with this cleanse. But then it would be like, oh no, I didn't turn the corner. Oh, I think I'm about to turn the corner. Oh, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I turned the corner.
Ah, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that helped. It also helped me emotionally through that because letting your body detox is a big deal.
Yeah.
And especially when I was diagnosed through testing with extreme candida,
Yeah.
extreme, so systemic in my bloodstream.
Wow.
And even though I didn't have all the classic symptoms like exhaustion and all that, I definitely had the rash that was pervasive and like literally like, oh, I'll just take a sander to my skin.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it probably helped me with my relationship with myself to be
Yeah.
kinder and more loving to myself during that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really heard that. I mean, that's a theme that you're teaching and
Yes.
in working with. And I really heard that in our calls. And I hoped that the flower essences were helping with that, like just bring that more, even up more for you,
Yeah.
that self-love and acceptance.
Well, and oh my God, Christine, this just popped in my head. So you probably know I talked about it in the calls. I took those 2 mountain bike spills. So
Yes.
you can see
Ooh,
this is right
yeah.
on my arm and then it's on my hip here and my leg. In the past, and they were rough spills. Like I definitely had some whiplash in my neck. And I think I shared this on one of the calls too. But the first time it happened, I was by myself and I caught myself going down the rabbit hole of beating myself up in the whole law of attraction. Like, why did I attract this? I'm out here having a great time. And all of a sudden I was like, no, stop. This has nothing to do with this. This just happened. And then the thought came to me, Marty, what if this happened so that you can practice self-love? And then when I had the accident again last week, it was like, and my husband was with me, and I was able to very clearly say to him, I really don't want to go to the rabbit hole, right down the rabbit hole about what I might be doing, how I might be ungrounded, how I just know I'm hurting enough,
Yeah.
and I want to be loving and kind to myself, and that's been huge for me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I just as is what you're teaching. It's everything. I mean, that's like the beginning and the end of it's everything.
Yeah, and he was wonderful about it too. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," and that was great. He could hear that and be really, really supportive and good about that too. And then actually, what I noticed is he was giving that kind of support to himself.
Wow, that's
So
really great. Well, I um, can't help but think that some of the essences, and we'll look at them specifically in a minute, were helpful, the ones that are popping up into my mind.
uh-huh.
And it can happen when we're taking flower essences because we're shifting internally that the people around us start to answer that. They reflect that. So I love what you say.
Absolutely. Makes
Yep, yep, yep.
sense.
You
Yeah,
understand all this.
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Anything else just generally you want to say about this last month? Anything that has come new or any just anything that's happening that maybe in your external world that might be, who knows? I don't know whether.
Well, I mean, obviously you can know what I've taken. This is kind of the thing that I've noticed. It's funny, I feel emotion as I say this. Probably the big piece for me is support of women. And that's become more and more to the forefront for me. Not that men don't deserve support, but we live in a very patriarchal culture. I would also call it a white patriarchal culture.
Right.
And I'm going to say it this way, Christine. I think if you look like you and I do, you know, kind of blonde, white women.
Yeah.
There is ways in this world that it's easier. And
Yeah.
that is just the way it is. And not for women, I'm going to say, oh, my life has been so easy. But there are doors that can open. And what I would also say is through the opening of that door, on the other side of it, there can be abuses of that too.
Yeah.
And that has really been to the forefront for me as well, is as women, no matter what race we are all suppressed as women. And then you add a different race to that, and then you're adding another layer of that.
Yeah.
And I would say it's really spoken to me as a white woman. And I had a DNA test done, and I'm about as white in culture as you can get. And I would tell you, I was genuinely disappointed to find that out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so white. But what I feel, this has really spoken to me, that to have the voice that I can have and to speak up in that way is so important.
Yeah.
Because of how I look, and you know, the color of my skin, and being that here, especially here, you know, I mean, I think it's all over the world, but in the United States, to be able to have that voice and to find that within myself, to speak up for myself first
Yeah.
and foremost, because I see the suppression
Yeah.
of myself as a woman, and I know that all the learnings I had about, you know, well, you know, you really, you know, default to, you know, the man knows best, or the father knows best, and all that, and really taking strides to be kind about moving more into empowerment around that, if that makes sense. That's something that's really been on the forefront of my mind for sure over the last month, if not two. It's always been kind of creeping in there for a while, but it seems to have really come to the forefront even more.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Really, really wonderful. And I'm going to I'm going to go to the essences because, let's just see. No, you came with the theme that you had said about being um, kind of betrayed or feeling attacked,
Oh,
and that kind of pattern. And
I just experienced that yesterday.
you did.
I did.
Okay.
And this is a difference. Actually, it's huge in my world. I definitely was like, whoa. And I definitely would say I went to somewhat of a dark place for a little while. Like, but what I would say is, you probably know, Christine, because you've been around me, like I lead with anger. It's a
Yes.
safer emotion. And I felt the depth of sadness yesterday that was huge. And even this morning when I was driving into um, go on a hike, I saw a cat. My cat's a cat on the side of the road that had been killed, and I burst into tears.
Um,
And I kind of wonder if that is helping me. The essences are getting in touch with this well of sadness
yeah.
that I buried below the anger, because it wasn't okay to be sad
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and to be sad about the attacks and stuff. And I think that's a level of healing, and I feel it now, is huge.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, not wonderful, but you know what I
It
mean.
is wonderful. It is, and it is wonderful. It really
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah. As you know, I well understand that the go-to is the, defense first,
Yes.
and underneath that is the softer, more vulnerable parts of
Yeah.
ourselves. And
Yeah.
that makes really a lot of sense that you'd be getting in touch with that wish and that vision of empowering women,
Mm-hmm.
because that would come, it can come from that defense and that warrior energy. But when we kind of get more integrated inside,
Mm-hmm.
then we're like, yeah, this is what I'm here for. And it just feels more like a mission and not a, you know.
Yeah, and even what happened to me yesterday with a family member, where it was like, whoa, and it really was like going to a place where I would say it could get quite ugly.
Yeah.
And then even in the midst of that, in the past, I would have been like, screw this, and just been so like not open at all because
Yeah.
I was so hurt or like that was so uncalled for.
Yeah.
But even in that moment, and not out of a like patronizing, like, oh, I've got to be the wilting violet in the corner, and I've got to say this to get along, which I learned to do so much as a kid. I
Yeah.
literally noticed a difference that I came from a place of, I don't want to hurt myself this way anymore. If I can find resolve with this person, I want that. And it really came from a softer yet more empowered place.
Yeah. Yeah. Love the sound of that. And I'll just go to the essences
Yes.
because, as you know, there were a few of my favorites in here. In fact, all of them are my favorites. Holly, which is kind of the main, such an important essence in the system. And it's the heart opening flower, works with the heart. And this is what really stood out for me when I picked it for you, really resonated for me too. It's those of us who have high emotional ideals, we come in with it. And then it says, who are seeking divine love in this lifetime and who can be misunderstood, hurt, and disappointed by the all too human world.
Mm,
And especially when we're little, that heart that we come in with is just, we know what can happen. And the response then can be anger, it can be defensiveness, it can be mistrust. So it really sounds to me like, first and foremost, Holly is just opening your heart.
yeah. Yeah.
And the affirmation is, I'm full of joy, I'm connected, I'm loving. So pretty good. Beach and impatience are the others. And impatience is like that reactivity.
I have none of that.
Really? No, nor do I. Impatience can help us either with irritability, reactivity, or just slowing down a little bit.
Oh, God, right?
So,
Could have been more perfect.
yeah, and that might be something you want, and we can talk about that if you want to have another remedy. That might be something that you're a Gemini, I've got a Gemini moon. Gemini it's fast, there's a lot of quickness there. And so impatience might be something that you might take
Yeah,
longer because of that, just quick.
absolutely. Oh my God, that sounds awesome.
But it just gives us patience and understanding of different kinds of tempos, either for ourselves or other people's tempos.
Yes.
And beach is for being critical, either of ourselves or other people. So that really, it says it promotes empathy and tolerance towards yourself and other people and even situations. So I would imagine maybe beach has been helping you not be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
That's the big
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Mhm.
So those are the three that kind of work together around anger, defensiveness. Holly, to me, being the king, the queen in there. The
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Centauri, which I am hearing Centauri in you.
yeah.
Centauri is really standing up for ourselves and not from an angry place, but a kind of like I am here and I deserve to be here and my needs are important. Um, it strengthens our sense of ourself and a recognition and formulation of your own needs, which I think is really important for women. And I think all children get this so trained out of them that
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
because we're shaping ourselves to other people.
right.
So I'm hearing Centauri in you as you speak about the way you responded to the family member.
Mm-hmm.
The way you said it even had a Centauri feel to it. It had this self-respect and dignity to it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then this empowerment you're talking about for women also feels very much like a Centauri. No, I'm here and I deserve, I'm here and I have this worth that is intrinsic. and this voice to
Mm.
speak about that. Couple of others. The Star of Bethlehem also is a very important one, and that is for, um, it's called the bringer of comfort and healing. It really works with shock and trauma, and it can work on very, very old trauma. There's a wonderful story in one of the books about a woman who had some kind of ailment, and when she took Star of Bethlehem, it turned out she'd been in a bomb shelter in London in like when she was a child. And Star of Bethlehem went back and really helped heal that trauma. And
Wow.
then her, whatever was going on in the present was shifted.
Wow.
So it can go, I think Star of Bethlehem, I tend to think of it being used long term because we're working with such old, usually people have old trauma.
Yeah.
And I really brought it in because you talked about big, you've had traumas and you did when you were 6 months old, there was a big trauma going
Yes.
on. So I would say that's been working kind of on a deeper level through
Yeah.
this time for you. Mimulus, we talked about fear, and I remember when we talked, I said, oh, she's not someone has any fear. And
Yeah.
you said, no, there might be some. So
Yeah.
mimulus is for fear. You mentioned fear of abandonment comes up.
I haven't felt it.
You haven't.
Not at all. Not at
Wow.
all.
Okay, that's could be the mimulus acting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's just, and it is helps with things like anxieties, but more for specific things like I am afraid of, I can identify it. I'm afraid of being abandoned.
Yeah.
Great. And I'm looking at the affirmation here. I am brave, I dare, I step forward. And I just have, when you were talking about this sense of women and empowerment, I just that kind of resonates too. Maybe a new level of stepping forward in
Mm-hmm.
what you're here to do.
Yeah.
The pine, I think I said this, I may or may not have, but pine is probably for everyone on the planet. First of all, it's for guilt, but certainly anyone who's raised a Catholic.
That's
um,
why I say do shots of it.
exactly, that's right. So self-reproach, not deserving to be here. That means being, be here,
Yeah.
born. So promotes deep self-acceptance, self-worth, and self-accusation. So again, some of that, you caught yourself in that,
Yeah.
that beating myself up. So that was the remedy. And it sounds like they've all been kind of coming together to, um,
Well, what I like is I really wasn't sure. You had mentioned a few things, but I didn't know anything like what does all this mean? You went over a couple, and it's actually really nice to go over it after,
yeah,
and go, oh yeah, because then I'm not like, it's then you're like, oh, that is different. So it's
yeah,
a really good way to do it.
good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Let me look through my notes from last time and just check in. What you said. You mentioned your husband can be critical. How's that been going this last month? Noticed any, and no right or wrong answers here.
Yeah, definitely better. And I would say more my response to it
Yeah,
has been better,
yeah,
really. And I think it's that thing when my response is better, then I get less of it, if
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah,
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 when I'm just like, okay, whatever. It doesn't, it's like, oh, it's all right.
yeah. Yeah, I'm always astounded. I mean, there's so many ways to look at this and understand it, but it's like when we shift that inside, that outside starts to
I know.
do its
It's
magic.
just so true. It's so, Yeah, and it doesn't have to be in that punitive way that I think that can get put out there, like, well, obviously you're still doing something wrong because you're still getting that. It's like, it's a process.
Yeah, that's
It's,
right.
yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you said about him. As we shift, we're teachers for the other person, because then none of us learned how to be kind. Most of us didn't. So as your energy is shifting towards self-love,
Yeah.
he's getting that. Oh, I can match that.
Right.
I can
Yeah.
join you in
Mm-hmm.
that. Let's see here. Just gonna look over. Right here. Have you had any shift in the way you mentioned you're very loyal and it hasn't always been reciprocated. Um, you any different relationship to that? This, like you said, it's kind of a pattern that, and you may, as you've said in calls, come in to really master something in this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably self-love and just, being
Yeah.
able to really love yourself in the midst of any of these things. Any difference in the way you look at that?
I'm not entirely sure, but I would say this. I can't say that I'm aware of right now someone in my life that I feel like I'm loyal to and it's not reciprocated.
Yeah,
I think those that were that way are sort of gone now,
yeah,
um, and feeling okay about that. One of my friendships, it was definitely pretty heartbreaking,
yeah,
but it was also like I always have left the door open for that for a conversation to take place and for that to change. And I think for a while I felt really sad that they weren't taking the opportunity to walk through the door. And then somehow I just was able to let that go more.
yeah,
So I would say that's probably, if anything, and but that's more it is. I don't really have what I would consider now too many people, anybody that I can think of right off the bat, and that I'm like, oh, they don't reciprocate at all.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Um, let's see here. And I think you've answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. When I asked you how you felt when people have attacked you, you said, I'm afraid I've done something wrong. How is that now? I mean,
I
again,
definitely felt that yesterday when
yeah,
this
yeah,
whole thing went down
yeah,
with my family member, and I was like, I noticed that little kid, like, oh, see, I'm wrong again. And
yeah,
then I was able to later have a better perspective on it, just to
yeah,
be aware of, oh, that part of me got really activated. And my normal thing would be to stay stuck in that feeling for days.
yeah,
And literally when I got to like the evening, I was like, if there's a way to resolve this, I want to, because I just don't want to resolve it within myself. I don't want to hurt myself this way. And ironically, I was, like I said, able to have a really good conversation, and it resolved in a much better way, very, much more quickly than it would have.
yeah, yeah, very good. It's you, I think, brought up, it's the flower essences don't take things away.
Right. Yeah, that
It's
makes
not
sense.
like I mean, I know when I'm in a certain place, and I will take a remedy when I'm upset for sure, but it's not like a pill. These emotions will still be with us. They might come up through our lifetime. I mean, they may always be little teachers, but our relationship with them will be different. And they will just show up differently. They will, like you said, it will be shorter term. Um, there'll be insights like oh, yeah, more of that. I do this to myself. I see this. Oh, I do that to that person. Isn't this interesting? More neutrality and able to just look at it
Yeah.
with awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, I love that about flower essences because they're not really. going in and changing who
Yeah.
we are, but they're shifting something on such a deep level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some of us, I believe, come in to really understand more about anger, the emotion of anger, and we are teachers for that, around that emotion
Yeah.
and the self-judgment. So maybe that'll always be we'll have that as a teacher for us and others.
Yeah. I suspect that's true for me.
Yeah, you and I have some
Yeah.
similarities, I think. Let's see, anything else here? You did mention that you can have anxiety.
Yeah. And that I've noticed I haven't felt that in a while,
Yeah,
really, that
great.
I'm aware of, because it would be, I'd go through periods where I was like, whoa, I was just aware it was sort of this low grade thing that's there. And I don't know, right now, it's like,
Mm,
it doesn't really seem, I know when it's present and I don't feel it now.
yeah, yeah. I think I'm just probably also getting probably the candidas, that kind of thing can really, I don't know why I thought of it, but that being out of your system can,
Oh my God, that's so true, because that's one of the symptoms is that. And yeah, and like I said, I finished the cleanse part and now I'm doing the like gut rebuilding part. And I definitely see myself being on this diet that I'm on for a long time,
yeah,
just because I know it's helping.
yeah.
And if I think about going back to some of this stuff, I was like, oh no, I couldn't do that. So why would I do that? Why would I
Yeah,
do that to myself?
yeah, yeah, that's
And it
right.
doesn't feel like deprivation. It actually feels like, no, I'm making a choice for my health, which is huge. It's a big difference.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
See here. Okay, so I asked at the end of our consultation what you'd like to feel, and you said, I'd like to feel freer, more centered and grounded, and not so reactionary. How would you say, where are you in that?
Um, I think the grounding thing is something that's always kind of a work in progress for me. It's
Yeah,
funny, I at times think of myself as someone who can be pretty grounded, but I don't really, but that's sort of an intellectual thought, because I know I start, this is actually what's happening. It's like, oh, just one more thing. I'll be in the middle of something, somebody asks me something, and I jump up and go do that. And that's very ungrounding. It can
yeah,
take a lot of trips and spills and stuff like that. And
yeah,
it's interesting. That wasn't what was going on well, it was on the second spill on the mountain bike. But what I noticed is I've been catching myself
yeah,
going, Marty, you don't have to react to this right now. You don't have to go take care of this right now. You don't have to pick up that phone. You don't have to answer that email. You don't have to answer that text. You don't have to go into the other room and if you're being called, or you don't have, I've been practicing. And I
yeah,
think that's been huge for me to catch that and go, I don't need to. And then the other day, I think it might have even been yesterday morning, I caught myself like, like the hummingbird. I was about running from one thing to the next. And I just caught myself and I was like, I don't want to start my day like this, like out of the gate, like, boom. So I just slowed down and I actually was just mindful for a few minutes while doing the dishes
yeah,
and just being mindful of the dishes.
yeah,
So those are kind of things that are happening.
yeah, yeah.
And that's huge for me.
It's wonderful. Very good. Well, is there anything else that you feel like is important to tell me about or that comes to mind?
No, that seems like a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like you're really on a good path,
Hmm.
very good path. Um, this felt like a really important remedy when I look at it because it had so many kind of foundational pieces to it.
Yeah.
Some of the essences are more for more temporary states, and some are just real like bricks in the foundation. And this felt like it had a lot of those bricks in it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's good. I mean, I love hearing about this, and
Yeah.
definitely let me know if you want to have another remedy. We can do another consult and just kind of tune into what you're feeling and where, if you want help going to another step in a direction that you want to be
Oh,
going.
I'm totally open to that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd
to
be
do
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
very good.
Well, thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you, Marty.
All righty. Yeah, that was great to go over that because then you kind of realize the stuff that's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good. That's
yeah.
really good. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, as long as you're open, I'm totally open to another consult and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'd love
and
to do that.
yeah.
Very good. Well,
Wow.
okay. Yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah,
for
and then what I'll
yeah.
do is I'll send you this recording
Okay.
and I'm going to let it download right now. And oh, yeah, it shouldn't be too, it's like 40, about 40 some odd minutes. So,
Okay.
and I'll do it in the Dropbox. Is that
Great.
how you got it? You got it in Dropbox? Is that right?
I think I did. I had a problem with it initially.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Sheesh.
I'll try it again and then we can, yeah,
Okay.
I'll send it.
Sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
good. Okay.
Great,
Very
Christine.
good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah, you bet. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.